Hello, I'm Nicola Foley, and this is the Let's Talk About podcast. This podcast is one of three, and I'm going to be talking to Demi, who is a friend of mine who also has ADHD, and we're going to start off talking about her journey of how she thought she might have it, how she got diagnosed. Then we're going to move on in the second podcast to what it's like living with ADHD, specifically being a female living with ADHD. And in the third and final podcast, we're going to talk about some of the help groups that we attend and some of the ways that we've learned to manage this condition. So I hope you find all this interesting and helpful. Hi, Demi.
Hey.
Okay, so, right, Demi, do you want to just tell us a bit about yourself first off?
Yeah, hi. I'm Demi. I'm 29 years old. I will be 30 in March. And I was diagnosed with ADHD in 2019. And I started off with some medications, came off those just for kind of, what's the word when you get, side effects.
Yeah.
Side effects, and they're still affecting me now. And then I started some occupational therapy, which was quite helpful. But then I moved from Fife to Glasgow and kind of lost that. And it's because of the pandemic and stuff. It's taken me like until now to get back on that kind of system. To then try some meds out again, and then which I've just done, which weren't too helpful. And so I'm hoping to get some occupational therapy. Other than that, I work freelance in film, and I've done so for the last 7 years. I studied film in Edinburgh.
Okay, thanks, cool. So why did you want to get diagnosed in the first place? What made you come to that decision?
So ADHD came up on my radar a few times, and I think I first heard of it probably through something like Pinterest or something. I use Pinterest a lot for just ideas, different perspectives on things. I think I maybe first saw like a breakdown of like symptoms there, or maybe like I came across ADHD from like frustration one day and Googling like why can't I focus on things, or why can't I remember things, or I maybe saw like a list of symptoms then and thought, like this does sound like me, but I had like maybe a fear of even being diagnosed with that, and thinking, no, it can't be, because like I used to think like what probably most people think, that ADHD was something that you were told you had when you were in primary school because you were one of the bad kids in the class, or disruptive kids, and you were a boy, and it was maybe a thing you had when you were younger, or it meant that you had problems at home or something, and that was it. So because I thought like, well, no, like I've been to uni and I was never disruptive at school, so I probably didn't even know that ADHD could affect you as an adult.
So what, you just thought you'd like grow out of it or something? You thought people grew out of it, yeah?
Yeah, I kind of did, yeah. And then I think when I was at uni, I heard someone say something about someone they thought who was someone we knew mutually that was female, and they thought they had undiagnosed ADHD, and I thought, oh, that's quite weird that, that must be quite rare that a girl would have ADHD. And then anyway, so years later, like I've probably seen like a breakdown of all the symptoms and thought, oh wow, almost every single one of these like I relate to and resonate with.
Right.
I think I maybe asked some of my friends as well, do you think I've got ADHD? And a lot of them were like, yes, definitely. Oh, we've always thought that, or something, or yeah, or you probably do, or I think you do, and that really helped with my diagnosis as well. Like the psychologist or psychiatrist, I'm never sure which, but he said, could you get either like a family member or a friend to write, to just like say some things about in support of this, like to give a detailed picture.
Right.
My friend wrote like 5 pages or something. And it started off with like, just so you know, I love you, and none of this is meant badly, but here's like everything I've observed as your friend.
That actually
So
shows how well she knows you by starting it like that. Because like people with ADHD can definitely have like a lot of sensitivity to criticism.
yeah, 100%, yeah. So yeah.
So did you go through like your GP first and they like told you to go to a psychiatrist, or they recommended one, or they
All right,
referred
yeah.
you?
Good question. So when I first saw this list online of symptoms and stuff, I went right away to my GP, and I had to probably go to my GP about 5 times with that.
Right.
And I said, look, I've looked up these kind of things online, and it really resonates with me, and I think it applies to me a lot. And I would like a referral. Well, maybe come back in a wee while, and we'll look at a referral then. Like, they maybe advise these are these other things you could do. I think as well, because I always mentioned the ADHD thing. Like, I'd go in with I'd maybe already had an appointment for something else, and I'd mention it while I was there. And they'd be like, okay, well, come back and we can maybe see about that, and we'll do a referral. And then I got to the point where it was, um, I think as well, they maybe did try and throw meds at me for like anxiety or depression, if I'd maybe some meds that I'd been on before.
Right.
And I was kind of like, no, I don't want to take those. And, um, or they would give me links to like certain resources online for like helping your mood and stuff like that. And anyway, so I was also learning to drive at the same time, and I was really struggling with it. And to this day, I think I sometimes think passing my driving test is more of an achievement, a greater achievement of mine than completing my degree, because I think I thought I would never pass my test, and I would get really overwhelmed learning to drive and just feel like it was taking me a really long time, and I was frustrating my driving instructor. I went through like 3 different driving instructors, and um I would always get really upset and emotional and just feel so bad about myself. And um I did manage to pass after like learning for like 2 years, and it was also when I just passed my test that I noticed how distracted I was. Because like I think it's changed now, but when I was learning to drive, they would never take you on a motorway.
Yeah.
That was something you had to do once you passed by yourself.
Uh-huh.
And there's that phrase that says like, "Oh, now the real lessons begin. Now the real driving begins." And that is so true, because when you're by yourself, you need to figure all these things out. Then I think one day I was just so um upset at this near miss that I'd had in the car, that I kind of thought there's something wrong going on with my brain. There's something wrong with it, because I've been in the car with people and they don't get this distracted,
Hmm.
or they don't they don't make these kind of mistakes.
Were you
And
writing this down so that you could tell your GP? Did you like keep a note of all this, or a diary or anything? Or you just
no,
reading it?
I think I just phoned them in the heat of the moment one
Right.
day, and I was like, I've been to like 5 times about a referral, and I've never received a letter. I've never received that anything's went through for that, or like what's happening with that. And I'm like, I've just nearly had an accident, and I'm really worried that I'm gonna have more, because I think I've got ADHD, and I think it's affecting like my driving, and I think it's dangerous.
Yeah.
And that really sped things along. And then after that, maybe within a couple of months, I got an appointment And yeah, it went from there. And
So from
the
when you first like initially thought you had it then to when you got an appointment with the psychiatrist, how long was that?
maybe about a year and a half.
Right. For your doctor to kind of sort of been fobbing you off for that long, pretty much.
Yeah, and like anything, you would just kind of like put up with it,
Yeah.
and you would forget, and then there'd be moments where you'd be reminded that, oh yeah, I should probably get a diagnosis for ADHD. Oh, I need to chase that up, and then in order to do that, I need to phone and make an appointment, or and um, just being able to do that with an ADHD brain can sometimes like take you a long time
Yeah.
to even make yourself a priority like that as well.
Yeah.
Because I was always like, I'm not so much now, but back then I was like an insanely busy person, and I was always working, and um I kind of got like really distracted with work and career stuff, so there maybe wasn't much time to make that a priority.
Okay. So see when you got this appointment with the psychiatrist, what happened then? Did like you said he asked you to get friends and family to write stuff down. So was that how long was the process with the psychiatrist from first seeing him to getting diagnosed?
I'd say it was maybe like a month. It wasn't that long, it felt really quick. Yeah, I'd say it was like a couple of weeks, a month maybe.
Right.
And he asked for like school report cards and to speak to a family member that was close to me, like my mom or something. And yeah, any kind of words from friends or things like that. I don't think he asked for a letter. I think my friend just wrote a letter, and he was kind of like, "Oh, this is very handy. Like this really helps." Because I had a bit of difficulty with telling my parents about it, and my mum was like, she didn't think that my mum didn't agree that I had ADHD, and she didn't think that any of those things applied to me, and that I was quite normal. Um, but I think looking back, I think that's quite a natural like parent thing to do, where you maybe don't want to like say there's anything wrong with your child, and she was probably looking at it the way that maybe a doctor would look at it as well. That's like, well, you've been to uni and you managed to pass your degree, and you're very clever, and you were never disruptive in school, and all the things that a lot of
The girls
people.
don't present with when they've got ADHD.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
Do you know what it is as well? I think as a parent, it's not only that you don't want anything being wrong with your child, it's that it makes you look at yourself and that you
yeah,
have to then go, oh dear.
yeah.
Because as they say at the ADHD group in Perth, apples don't fall far from the tree. I think it's a bit of a
Yeah,
realization as a parent as well that, that you might have some of those traits or that you might have aspects of that in your family that it's quite hard to deal with that. It's quite hard to think about that.
yeah, totally. And she might be thinking like she might have guilt that she didn't notice that, and
Yeah.
I've went through all these like realms of education and all these hard things like learning to drive, and a diagnosis or having known that about myself would have changed my life.
Yeah.
So I kind of felt like I was really fighting for it, and I got really upset that my mum came in with me, and she said to the psychiatrist, "No, I don't think she does," and I'm kind of thinking, "Oh no," like. But despite that, he still said, like, I remember him saying to me, "I think you do because
Yeah.
I've observed you. Like, you came into my office and you spoke really quick, and you like had all these lists, and like um I got quite upset just talking to him about it and
Yeah.
stuff. So um I don't know, I do remember very clearly the day that like I got diagnosed, and I don't know, I still imagine like I was presented with like a wee ADHD certificate or something. because it kind of felt like that.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it felt momentous like that. It felt
Yeah,
like, oh my goodness, what a rite of passage.
yeah.
Like,
Well,
um,
it's like Lorna said at the ADHD group, it's validation. It's validation
yeah.
from, you're not crazy and all those things you've been thinking about yourself, they're true.
Exactly. And afterwards, I went and took my dog walk, and I just remember it was like a really sunny day, and I kind of like, I don't know, I like lay down and like, I kind of remember thinking everything's going to change from here, and
As
that was
in
a
get
good
better,
feeling.
as in improve.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think, or just like it was just a very significant day,
Yeah.
and yeah, you're right. Like all these things I thought about myself, I was like, I felt validated that there was some truth to that, and there was going to be help, and I was going to learn more about myself, and I was also not going to feel as bad about everything in my life that had happened before that. Things to do with so many things to do with uni, to do with friendships, relationships.
Hmm.
Um, to me, I was like, everything now has an explanation, and
Were you thinking, you just said you thought everything was going to get better then? Were you thinking that the psychiatrist was going to give you medication that was going to just completely change your life, or that you were going to like be given support groups? And were you thinking, did you get the support you thought you were going to get?
so I thought because I'd probably watched some videos maybe about it, or I'd like read some like NHS website stuff about it, and I thought that I'm gonna get given meds and everything's gonna be better.
Right.
Like the meds will sort everything out. I'll be able to focus. I'll be a totally different person.
It
I'll be
sounds like
very
you thought
productive.
you were like broken and that was going to fix you.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Right.
Um, and that's not what happened because I think I tried two different types of medication, maybe three. And like I said, there was side effects and like not everything changed. And that's quite common to hear that
Yeah.
like the medication supports people with ADHD, but it doesn't like make them a new person. You don't suddenly go from like having ADHD, taking meds, and then suddenly you're like the CEO of a business.
Yeah.
Like suddenly you're like, I don't know. And I noticed like I noticed actually quite a lot of pressure with the medication that they made me like more chilled out, which is good.
Yeah.
But I had like things like heart palpitations that were quite scary, or I'd become really sweaty, or I'd have really bad dreams. It affected my sleeping pattern, like little annoying things like that.
Right.
That I started to kind of think, oh, is it really worth it? You know? And then I started to feel kind of guilty that I was maybe suppressing who I actually was, and that like I wasn't accepting who I was. And some of my friends were also commenting that, you're really quiet, and usually I'm like a really kind of energetic, lively person who's like always kind of trying to be funny and stuff, and they noticed that I was really quiet, and that was strange. And I remember my psychiatrist saying, you can come off the meds if you're going on holiday or something, which I was in like August 2019.
Right.
So I came off the meds for like a 2 week holiday with my friends, and I just never went back on them because I was like, oh, this is actually so fun to just be myself again. And I noticed that like my friends had noticed I was back to my regular old self, and
Right.
I wasn't experiencing any of the side effects like the palpitations, or like this, I don't know, sometimes it felt like little bolts of electricity were going down my arms. It was really weird.
Hmm.
So I didn't have any of that. Because I'm the kind of person that would maybe tend to worry if something like that happened. I wouldn't be able to just say, "Oh, it's the meds. I'm sure it'll be fine." I'd probably be worried, like, "Am I having a heart attack?"
Or a
Or,
reaction to the meds that nobody's ever had or something. Yeah, that's normal.
yeah, like, is this the meds, or is this something else that I'm gonna
Yeah.
miss? Because I'll just think it's the meds. So Um, and then yeah, obviously the pandemic happened, and
Wow.
um,
So you literally got your diagnosis just before that?
yeah, because I came off the meds in August 2019, and then the pandemic happened in March
Yeah.
2020. So
So you didn't really have a lot of processing time there, did you, to come to terms with your diagnosis, and then you had all this time by yourself alone to think about nothing but that. No wonder like things have been so difficult for you.
yeah, yeah, totally. And then because I moved from Fife to Glasgow in January, and I just moved into a flat with some friends, and then and I was work, 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 and then the pandemic happened, and I kind of thought like everyone thought that the pandemic would last 2 weeks. So I went and stayed back in Fife at my parents' house because it was in the countryside, and um I had asthma then. I mean, I don't have it now, but that's a whole other story. But I was kind of worried that living in a city, I'd be more, and living with so many people, I'd be more exposed. And I moved back to Fife and stayed in the countryside for a bit, and which was really good to be able to have like access to nature and time outside. And
But living with your parents must have been slightly hard, given that
oh
your
yeah,
mum
it was really
wasn't
hard.
even necessarily in agreement with that diagnosis as well.
Yeah, it was really hard. Yeah, and then I think like there was the pressure that everybody had during the pandemic to like be productive as possible and like get
Fake.
your life sorted while you've got this free time and like um so so yeah, no, that was really difficult. And then because I'd moved to Glasgow, so once I said to my doctor, okay, I think I don't want to try any more meds because I've tried two or three now, and I just kind of is there any other kind of support I can have, any other kind of help? And he said, well, I can refer you to occupational therapy. So I got referred to them, and I got this amazing um doctor, and um she did more tests on me for stuff. She gave me other kind of tests to sit. I still don't know what they were for. And but I think she was more like looking to see what parts of my ADHD affected me, whether it was like and because I've got dyslexia as well, she would get me to do some writing and reading stuff,
Okay.
um and yeah, but I would have like a phone call with her every 2 weeks, and it was really good because she would help, like she would say like, well, what have you been struggling with, and she would help me out with it, whether it was like planning things or trying to like have reminders for things, and it was really useful. But what was kind of funny is that I missed quite a lot of the appointments because it was a phone appointment.
Yeah.
She would phone me and I'd be out with friends. I'd be out walking in Glasgow down the street, and I'd suddenly stop and go, "Oh no!" And my friends would look at me. I'm like, "It's my ADHD doctor," and they'd be like, "Oh right, okay." Like that's like kind of ironic then or something. And then I'd always say, "Oh, I totally forgot that I was talking to you today," and yeah. So but and then I kind of gave the game away by accident. I totally forgot, and I said to her, "Yeah, I've just moved to Glasgow, and it's kind of exciting, and things are going well."
Uh-oh.
And she said, "Oh, you're in Glasgow now. I can't like help you because you're no longer like a Fife resident, you know." And I was like, "Oh, whoops." So I think I tried to get that help in Glasgow, but because of the pandemic, that referral just got totally lost.
Yeah.
So I'm back in Fife now. I moved back in Fife in March 2021,
Yeah.
and um it's taken me this long to then like get a new referral.
So we're in October 2022 now.
Yeah,
Taking you that long.
mhm,
Wow.
to get to the med stage, and now I'm probably at the stage where I'm gonna jump from being prescribed meds to occupational therapy
So
and
at
try
any
that.
point did they offer you like CBT? Did they offer you any talking therapies? Did they offer you any support groups? Did they offer you any way of finding out about yourself or finding out about this condition?
No,
No.
nope.
So you
Yeah,
basically had to go looking for extra help yourself.
yeah. I think as well it was another kind of bad day that I had had, and I kind of was looking online for help and to see if there was like a group or a support group that I could join. So that's how I'm now in the Perth and Kinross one.
This podcast was brought to you by Nicola Foley and Buzzsprout, music by Zapsplat. Join us next time when we'll go on to talk about what it's like living with ADHD as a woman.